you this and you that, but I don't understand why you don't talk to me. I don't understand why you won't tell me how you feel. Like, we supposed to be a team. We supposed to be this, but are you? You can't tear a man down and expect for him to lay next to you at night and pour his heart out like he's supposed to be able to. You just can't.
I done been through so much shit you couldn't fantasize it. Trying to speak on what I lost, but I could never find it. I'm sorry if I get that love that I can't recognize.
Welcome back to Opinionated the Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Hicks, and alongside me always is my brother from another mother, Ree Washington. And today, we got Shanita. I'm just playing. We got my dog, Shanita, in the building back for a third time. How you doing, Shanita?
I am wonderful. How y'all doing?
We good. This is family. This is my Cuddy right here. This is my dog.
So, Shanita, since we had you on season 1, tell us a little bit about what you've been up to.
So I recently graduated with my master's. I'm in social work, and
Right.
Thank you. I just moved to a different state, and so
You can't say what state you moved to?
I moved to Georgia.
What part?
I moved to Fairburn, Georgia.
Okay.
There we go. Shit, speed.
No, but I moved to Fairburn, Georgia, and I'm just trying to plant my feet out there and work on my business, work on getting some federal employment because that's where the real money is at, and I'm just trying to educate people and do what I do.
What made you want to move to Atlanta? Well, Fairburn.
I felt like it was a better opportunity for me in Atlanta or in that area versus being in Kansas City. I felt real stagnant in Kansas City, and I'm one of them people where I always need that continual growth. So if I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm not doing enough for myself.
Is environmental change good for people?
I think environmental change is good for people, but you have to be realistic about that environmental change, because I went out there and I think my perspective was a lot different than the reality of what is going on now that I'm out there. So I went out there, I was excited about it, and then I moved in my house, everything was good, and out of nowhere I was just like, I hate it. Like, I hate it, I don't like to be here. And I don't know if it's the job that I'm in or if it's just I still feel a little stagnant right now. And I know that there's that adjustment period with you first moving, but then comes into now that I'm getting settled, there's nothing like lined up, there's nothing happening. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get past that.
And that's crazy that you say that, because, you're a couple years older than me, but, like, Ree and I, we always speak on how we feel like we're not doing enough. Like, although, yes, we have accomplished so much at a young age, we still feel stagnant, like you mentioned, that, man, I'm not doing enough, or maybe I need to be doing more. And it's like, how can a person get over that? Because, I know you're trying to figure it out, but what do you recommend that a person can do?
I think the biggest thing for me is I tend to, I'm an overachiever, so I look too far in front of me to where the steps that I am taking, it don't seem like I'm taking them.
Yeah.
So I have to learn to slow down a little bit, and I have to learn to take a few steps back and handle things in like little spurts. So like with me getting the job that I want, I have a job. It's an okay job. I like the job. I don't like the people, but I have a job. And I complain about it even though I have one. So now it's more of like, okay, well, what do I need to do to get to the next step? And me trying to seek federal employment, I have to put myself in those positions to be eligible for that. You know what I'm saying? So just me understanding those small things and not just thinking because I'm a veteran, I'm entitled to federal employment, because I really do feel that way. I do feel like everything I did as a service when I was in the military, it should be a lot easier. And if anything, it's just as competitive as it is with somebody who has the experience to do the same thing. They don't really separate it as much as you would think that they do. So I guess me changing my perspective and how I look at things is probably the first step to me feeling that way, and just appreciating what I have accomplished. Because like I said, all the things I just said that I did and what I'm trying to do now, and I don't even like live in that. I live in, I'm still trying to get here.
Yeah. You're still hungry. You're still trying to reach for more because you know that you can obtain more. You say you just recently graduated with your social work master's. How is that? Like, what made you want to be a social worker?
When I was younger, I went through a few different things that kind of led me to almost end up in foster care. And so I got lucky. My grandparents took me and my siblings in, but the worker that we had was poor. Like, it seemed, now that I'm old enough to understand, that she made it a point to want to take us from our mom. And she did everything she could to make sure that my mom did not have custody of us, to the point to where she threatened to take me and my siblings and my auntie, her kids too, because we stayed with them. So I saw that and I understood what social workers do, and I wanted to do something different. So she influenced me to do it so that I could be better and contribute to that, because in this field, in the mental health field, the behavioral health field, a lot of social workers have a bad name, but a lot of social workers are trash.
Because my mom, I have a lot of social workers in my family. My mom's a social worker. I always mess with her and call her a snitch.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. We always see the bad with social workers. We always talk about, they're separating families and all that.
Right.
And that's not the case whatsoever. Like, there are a lot of social workers who do the most that they can, protect these kids and these families and keep them together. So, but like, it looks like it's an underfunded position almost.
Right, and because it's so underfunded and it's so underpaid, that's where the lack of care come in with social workers, because as many good social workers there are twice as many that are really not that good. And it's because they're underpaid. And like you say, a lot of people think that as a social worker, I'm just you taking me from my family and different things like that. There are so many things that social workers have to do, but a lot of times it's one of those things where, like I say, I want to contribute to a population of just educating people. I'm real big on self-autonomy. So if any way that I could teach a person to understand that all they need is themselves, I feel like people will operate a lot better in the world than having that dependency on other people or those influences and different things like that. And it really, really starts with just people understanding that they are enough by themselves. A lot of people don't get that. And as a kid, when you go through foster care, that's even a corrupt system, because a lot of foster parents are horrible. A lot of foster parents, they beat kids. You're not supposed to do that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the foster moms that have spouses end up molesting the kids. And so a lot of them being taken out of their homes and being thrown into homes of people that they don't know go through even more, if not worse, than what they did at home.
And to kind of touch on it, just because I know you a little bit, on a personal level, I feel like I understand through our everyday conversations, and I understand through, the ways that you helped me, just being there as a friend, I can understand how, social work, and you kind of really been able to decipher the levels of social work. And then I also believe that you put that into your own life, right? And then you practice what you preach, and you take account, like, if I'm going to tell somebody this, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And going back to perspective, I think you have a broad perspective on a lot of aspects. That's why I can't get rid of you.
No, but like, I had to be that way. I had to be that way. It's crazy because you know how it is when you come from a place and just things in your household become normal to you, that normalcy. So with me, I didn't even learn that I had trauma or experienced any type of trauma until I went to school.
Right.
So, and that was a very hard thing, because now I'm unfolding a lot of this baggage that I didn't know I had as an adult, with all of these childhood memories of dysfunction. And so I think that kind of pushed me even more, because it was almost like a self-help. Going to school for social work was almost therapy for me. And it was self-help.
My fault to cut you off. Do you think dysfunction kind of is the layout of how people live their lives now?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people operate in dysfunction, and that's why they're scared to change. So once you get used to things being a sort of normal, then something come around and it's good to you, you don't know what to do with it. And it's because you've never seen it before, you've never experienced it, and it's too good to be true, so you don't believe it so much that you self-sabotage. And a lot of people function like that in this world, which is why there's a lot of bad and negative energy, and there are a lot of people who don't excel as much as they want to because they can't get past that, and they don't realize that they're doing it to themselves.
So what is your opinion and perspective on this new term, toxic, being toxic?
I think that a lot of people use it and they glorify it almost.
Right.
I think that a lot of people take a lot of pride in being toxic, I guess. Like, and it's just an excuse, and it's just I think it's just like a coping mechanism sometimes for people too. They would rather that, now that there's a label for it, it's easy to claim it. But before, if you were to say it to somebody and it wasn't publicized on social media and everything like that, it would be offensive, which it should still be.
I think in a way they act they think they can act, toxic because they've been hurt, and it was okay for somebody to hurt them. So they try to, justify it like it's okay for me to act like this and hurt you.
But a lot of people act toxic and aren't even really toxic. They just do it because
I think like you said, they glorify it, and it's basically, you see it all the time on social media, and on reality TV shows where people are like, oh, he's toxic, I'm toxic, and they try to blame it on their signs, like, oh, I'm a Scorpio, and Scorpios they get a bad rep, and they say, oh, all Scorpios are toxic and all that, and it's like everybody has a little bit of toxic in them. Now it's up to you to understand, okay, I need to fix this about myself. Stop glorifying and stop making an excuse and be like, oh, I cheated because I'm toxic, or oh, my relationship didn't work out because I'm toxic. Like, no, it's you. It's not that word.
Yeah. The label creates an excuse. And a lot of people live in a world of just making excuses because they don't want to do the work or do what it takes to change. And most of the time it's because you have those around you that are kind of influencing it. They don't tell you when you're wrong. They don't disagree with you. They don't correct the behavior. They just continue to either ignore it and say, oh, well, that's just them. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just do this and do that. But how do you call yourself a friend to somebody if you can't hold them accountable and tell them, like, hey, you really ain't.
Because they go find the friends who are going to tell them that they're right.
Right. And there's more of that than there are people who are correcting them and telling them that they're wrong. And that's why it's so important to understand that, I guess as long as you understand it, if you okay what's going on, then you'll know that that's what you're going to go through, and that's just what it's going to be. But these are the exact same people who cry for help and say, oh, nobody's there for me. Oh, I've done this by myself. Nobody's ever loved me. And it's just really all attention seeking.
And I want to pick your brain a little bit on switching lanes as far as a woman, and you're, let's say you're dating a man or whatever the case, or you have a lot of male friends, and you say, okay, you see a lot of men that are mentally, they're hurting right now. Why do you think it's such a hard thing for us to do?
What do you mean?
To express ourselves. Like you're around a lot of men, but it's like we can't express ourselves because we may think it's not the manly thing to do, because if we express our feelings or we say how we're hurting, we may look less than.
Couple things. One, I think it's a pride thing. I think that just because men being prideful in general, it takes a lot for a man to swallow that, to say, hey, I'm not okay, my feelings are hurt. But two, I also think it's a societal thing too, because the world makes it to where men aren't allowed to express themselves. Like, oh, if you express yourself, you soft. Or, oh, if you go and you be like this with your girl, oh, you a punk. Like, she run you and different things like that. And then that male ego tap in and be like, nah, I'm not even gonna go out like that. Like, we not about to do none of that. So men masks themselves and put themselves in boxes because society made it harder for men to be open about their emotions and express themselves, when really, you're a human just like I'm a human. Just because I'm a woman, they claim us as emotional. There are a lot of women who aren't emotional. There are a lot of women who just are upfront about how they feel, and if that makes them emotional, then okay, fine. But I should be able to tell you, as you should be able to tell me, and it be received well. And another thing with that, women make it very, very hard, because women are so quick to call you out your name. Women are so quick.
Yeah, I think exactly what you're going on. Like, they're so quick to use it on you.
Yeah, they so quick to just say, oh, you this and you that, but I don't understand why you don't talk to me. I don't understand why you won't tell me how you feel. Like, we supposed to be a team. We supposed to be this, but are you? You can't tear a man down and expect for him to lay next to you at night and pour his heart out like he's supposed to be able to. You just can't. And so I think that the combination of that just makes it even worse. And people care too much about what people think. Opinions about you towards somebody else, a lot of people feed into that. If somebody always calling you a punk because you express yourself, eventually you're going to believe it, because they keep doing it. So it's like, dang, why they keep saying that? Like, why they keep doing that? You know what I'm saying? So that's the importance of surrounding yourself with real good people.
So to flip that, why do you think it's, you spoke on the man's kind of, perspective. What about the women's?
As far as what? Why do they feel?
As if they can't talk, or, they've been hurt that one time, and it just seems like a downhill spiral at the end of that.
Women self-sabotage. So before I say anything about men, I'll say this: women tolerate way too much because they want that acceptance. They want to feel wanted. They want to feel loved. And I don't want to put.
We saw this last night.
Yeah.
With
yes, where we was at yesterday. Yeah, and it's like women want to be accepted and liked so bad that they're willing to do whatever it takes to keep it. And if that means you got to break bread and all you do is break bread, you know what I'm saying? I've seen situations where women know that that's all that they're worth to a man, and they will do it just to keep him around so that the next woman can't get him, when really that's where his attention is at. Working on being with this person and then just using you for what you have right now. And two, I also feel like men sometimes do make it hard for women to express themselves because they really don't want to hear what you have to say. When you meet somebody and you learn what you want from them, it changes everything. In the beginning, it's like, oh, this person is interesting to me. I want to get to know them. And then when you finally do get to know them, then you start to build expectations. And sometimes a lot of people's expectations don't take them far enough to get to the healthy parts of relationships. Then you get into that using, or you get into that negativity, where you want to just tear women down because that's just what you like to do. And women don't articulate themselves that well either. Sometimes women want you to assume or think that, oh, well, if she got an attitude, I know what's wrong with her. Well, you know me so well, you should know what's wrong with me. And it don't work like that at all.
To kind of switch lanes a little bit, but, dive a little further, we always have great conversations all the time. And I think it's just as important that, viewers and those out there who might have questions, role playing, for both genders. Just meaning, like, just okay. I think the big controversial, debate right now is that, women are trying to be men in different aspects.
Women are trying to be men?
Not trying to be men, but the characteristics, or it is a women's movement right now, so it's more of a, I can do it, get out my way, I don't need you.
I don't think so. I think that because a lot of women, or a lot of men now, are so used, a lot of men are spoiled. And a lot of men are used to women doing for them. But as a woman, if you with a man, you're supposed to do for him. The problem is when that's not received in return, and when you don't get that on the other end, you have to be woman enough to say, is this something that I want to do? Right. And if not, get up and go. Because if you don't, then you create that mental, you create that mental blockage for you, that's all that you're worth.
I think what it really is now, a lot of women, and I can't even say a lot of women, but couple women now understand their worth. So when they understand their worth, they're now in positions where, they are a CEO of a company. They might not say my man needs to make as much money as me, but he needs to show me that he can bring something to the table. If he's not bringing something to the table, of course she's gonna look at him like, hey, I run this house kind of thing.
And what's crazy about that is what men fail to realize, it's not about money. I think for some women it probably is, because it's more of a
attraction.
It can be, but not really, because you're supposed to make money. You know what I'm saying? You have to be able to separate certain things about yourself to stand out to a man. What I really think, though, is I think that a lot of men don't know how to appreciate a woman who's that independent. You're not supposed to feel that she's so independent that she doesn't need you. You just, financially, she might not. And again, it's not about the money, but you got to take care of business at home. What are you doing for me mentally? You know what I'm saying? What are you doing for me physically? What are you showing me? There's leadership in all of that as a man, and money has nothing to do with it.
Right. And
I could make more money than you, and you could still pay the bills, and it's not going to change nothing. You're a man. If you want to lead this household, how do you see fit that it happens that way? You know what I'm saying? But if you come into this and you say, oh, she make more money than me, and then every chance you get when we get into it, you say, oh, you think you better than me because you got degrees, or you think you better than me because you got this and you got that. Who said anything about that? Why is that even something? That's an insecurity in you that you have to fulfill and figure out, because as long as you see me that way, you will never understand what I'm trying to promote and influence to you. It's not about the money. It's more about, okay, she do make more money than me. That should motivate you to go and figure out, how can I step above her? And what most women want is that emotional aspect. They want you to take care of home. Mentally, you make me feel one, and make me feel like you appreciate me, and not about no money, just that because I'm supposed to be the person that you're with. But if you're not doing that, and I make more money than you, that's where the disrespect comes. That's where it's like, why should I respect you? You don't do anything for me at this point. You just a body. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't make me feel pretty. You don't tell me that you care about me. You don't even attempt to try to do anything. Like, I don't need you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I believe these conversations are needed because oftentimes us as men, we're talking to each other about these things, and it's like we have no idea because we're not asking the woman what her perspective is. So of course we're getting bad instructions from somebody else who might not even be able to keep a woman. It's like, why am I asking you for an opinion on something where it's like, hey man, how can I keep a woman? And it's like, oh, you haven't had a woman.
But a lot of women aren't shit. And I'm gonna be 100% honest about that, because you have women who do make a lot of money and they want to demasculate their man. They want their man to feel like a punk or feel like a pawn. And then you have a lot of women who are very selfish. So it does make it very hard for a man to kind of come into a situation like that and be who he needs to be when you're not giving him what you need to give him. So women have to take accountability for the fact that you cannot glorify yourself and your worth because you have degrees, because you make all this money, because you have a house, you have a car. That doesn't mean anything to a man. What a man wants, from what I understand, is all of those qualities are good because that means that he don't have to take care of you, but he's looking for what you can bring into the home. You know what I'm saying? How you can nurture him, what you can show him in where you stand as that team that y'all are supposed to be. So I think it goes both ways. And nowadays women only look for men who have money. It's that glamorous type of thing. A lot of men that have money ain't shit. Like, they suck. They got wives, they got kids everywhere. They will pay you to keep your mouth closed, and it's like, all of that for some money.
But that goes back to that conversation we actually had.
Which one?
Yesterday. We talk about how, if I have all of these people over here providing X, Y, Z, but yes, you are a good dude. I like your characteristics. I like, this about you, but why would I jeopardize that? Why would I jeopardize, everything else I'm getting on over this way?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It depends on where that woman is mentally.
Right.
Most women out here, and a lot of women looking for companionship, and they're afraid to say that because they just don't have any hope in getting what they want. And a lot of it is because they don't want to work for it. They feel like they don't have to. I'm a woman. I have a vagina. You got some money. It ain't free. So what you gonna do for it? And that's just kind of where, but that social media plays into that. A lot of different things. I know a lot of girls who grew up and they only talk to men with money, and that's all they've ever known from a young age, like 18, 19, we teenagers, and they dating drug dealers. And they want to chase that fast life, that fast money. But most women just are afraid to ask for companionship because they don't think that they're going to get it. And again, you just have to separate yourself as a man. Like, we had a conversation yesterday, and I was saying how instead of texting a woman, call her.
Yeah.
You want a woman to really see what you're about? You feel that you're real interested in this woman? Then you need to make it a point to let her know that constantly. Just like she needs to make time to let you know that she's interested constantly. If you call her, I remember you told me one time you called a girl and it was like weird to her. Like, it was just kind of weird, and she just kind of like pushed off. That's just because women aren't used to that. However, what it does to most women is it separates you. I hate texting. Don't text my phone because I don't understand your tone. I don't understand what you mean.
Right.
And if you have that much time in your day to sit there and send me a long paragraph, a text message, which over a conversation that we could have had within 10 minutes, you have that much time to text me, but you don't have time to take out 5 or 10 minutes out your day, 24 hours in a day, to call my phone so that I can understand your tone and what you mean and where you're coming from. So when you do text me, I believe that, and I can understand, okay, I know him well enough to know when he texts me, he meant what he said. Then what are we doing? What's the point? It's the same thing with I will not. If you text me when you're here to pick me up. Text me when you on your way or something. Do not text me and ask me, so what do you want to do in life? Where you see yourself in 5 years? I ain't got time for that. Bye. Have nothing to say.
That's real. That's free game. I think anybody of any age, male or female, can use that advice, honestly. I'm going to take it into consideration myself, because it's like sometimes I do catch myself texting, but he's a caller. He's going to call you, and you're going to have to pick up the phone. You FaceTime me. I'm like, so between both of you guys, I've learned myself to handle that and start doing that more often when people, because I always check in on people, but I might just check in with a text, and it's like, man, maybe they might need to hear words of encouragement from me, actually, not just me texting it to them.
Right.
They might need to hear my voice. So no.
Just you texting words of encouragement that is different because a lot of people don't even do that. Like a lot of people don't even care to check in with their team like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that is creating a healthy habit. But eventually, like we all busy, we all have our lives. So in order for us to stay as connected as possible, them phone conversations are important. You know, every now and again, trying to come in town, take trips, meet up, just have that stuff is very, very important in relationships. It's extremely important because, and I think y'all touched on it before, but when the pandemic happened, a lot of relationships went to crap. And that's because that personal type stuff, phone calls, in-person conversations, dates, different things like that, lacked. So a lot of people was like, I don't even know who I'm dealing with, like, or I don't even like who I'm dealing with.
I just think when it comes to, I'm big on friendships.
Yes.
I'm big on the people who I surround myself with. I'm big on just who I surround myself with because it does shape what you do, how you think. You know what I'm saying? Everything above that. And I seriously think in today's world, like the longevity in relationships in general is diminishing. I feel like it's more of what can I get from you now? What can you do for me? And if you can't do nothing for me, then you don't even need to be here. You know what I mean? And just having a simple conversation, that's why you're here. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm super big on that. That's just my opinion on.
It's pride and it's a lack of communication. A lot of people, like, if you do something to me, I'm going to say something. Most people won't. Most people brush it under the rug and they let people get in their ear. Or they'll go and talk to somebody else about it and get their opinion about it who has no connection to what's going on and ultimately none of their business instead of coming directly to you and saying, hey, I don't like when you did that. Oh, something ain't right. Like just something, I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it ain't right. Not saying that I have a problem with you, but I just noticed that something is off. He just told me that. We just had a conversation about that. And that was important to me because as much as I'm trying to put my finger on what was going on with me, because I've been telling him a lot, like I guess so much going on, a lot of negative energy. But just for him as my friend to feel that, and we're not even in the same state at this point. It was right before I came up here. And he said it. That's important to me because that lets me know, one, I'm not crazy. What I'm thinking is right. But two, I really do need to figure it out because now it's starting to affect my friend. It's starting to rub off on him and he's not even around me. You know what I'm saying? And that is what it's supposed to be about. And that's why it's important to do that type of stuff. I just think a lot of people feel like that's just too much. And I won't understand why.
Too much because they don't want to put that. Again, it comes back to me and Josh talk about it all the time, like just putting that work in. Like it's hard work doing anything, but they say anything worth having is hard work. You have to.
But do y'all think that what do y'all think as far as people and that word work? Like, do y'all really think that where do people stand in that putting in the work?
I feel like if you give somebody the blueprint, I say, hey, you do 1 through 10 right here, you'll be rich. I feel like people still won't put that work in because they just want you to hand them the money. Yeah. I
mean, I think that's a lot of like with friendships as well and relationships. I don't want to put the work or the effort in to kind of know you. Just give me the basic facts that I need to know about you.
Favorite color, birthday.
And we're cool. We're friends. Okay, I know something about you. And it's like, that's you and I were speaking about that at dinner yesterday, Ree, where I said, you're showing me around Kansas City, and some people come up to me and they act like they know you, or they're like, man, I'm so cool with Ree. And I'm like, y'all have no idea who this man is, and not in a bad way. I'm like, but you have a whole nother like side to you. They just see the industry, Tyree. Like, I know you personally. Like, so when they come up to me and they tell me certain things, I'm like, yeah, you think you know him, but you don't. And I mean, but you and I, we have invested time and years with one another where we talk every day and we have these conversations. And sometimes we tell each other straight up, hey, nah, that ain't it. Or that doesn't work for you. You need to do better. Right. But I know I can say certain things to you and nobody else can say that.
And that goes the same. Like, with both of y'all. And I'm a very different type of person outside
Where you from, Labodi?
Stupid. But I am a very different type of person outside my friendships, and you would never know that if you wasn't friends with me. Like, you got it easy because you came in with him, and whoever he bring around me, I trust because I know he has my best interest and they're good people. And I've seen a difference. There are people that he'll introduce me to, but that's it. Like, he won't try to
force it on you.
Nothing. He'll just, this is so and so because I'm around. Like, this is my sister. This is what it is. But that's exactly how I am. A very, very different person outside of my friendships. I am very closed off to anybody that's not my friend. And so if anybody comes to me that's not my friend, I don't care who you are, and you say something crazy to me, like, it goes a completely different way. Whereas he would just be like, check that shit, like, hey, like, or you'd be like, no.
Just to piggyback that, I was actually having a conversation with my manager, and he was just explaining how, well, we just kind of like, you know, bouncing ideas, and he was just like, it's those times where you don't really know that person, and you can't say you don't trust them, but you know, they haven't done anything for you not to trust them, you know what I mean, one of those. But at the same time, it's just like, it's those small acts that kind of build that, oh shit, like, I really like this person, you know. Just, you know, I guess the, you know, story was, he was, you know, drunk, passed out, but he was gonna have a party at his house, and one of the dudes that, you know, he didn't really know, but he knew, kind of kicked everybody out, like, it's time to go, man, sleep, you know what I mean, and nothing was touched, locked up the house, you know what I'm saying. And then that day forward, they were cool, like, they've been locked in ever since. And we just talking about, like, acts that you don't even ask for, kind of lay that groundwork or the underlying factors. Right.
It takes a lot of time. Like, even when in the beginning of our friendship, it took a long time. We've had a conversation where I understand you well enough to say, okay, this is how it was. Right. And I'm getting to know Josh in that way, to where I've started to understand certain stuff about him.
Right.
So it just,
I think it's just having an understanding of who that person is, and then also
it is, but you just have to want to do that.
Right.
You have to want to do it.
I mean, Shanita, you know, we always gotta have you every season. We gotta have you on the show. But man, tell the people how they can get in contact with you since you Hollywood now.
My social media is Caramel Kisses, CarmelKissezz. My Facebook is Shanita Sivels, ShanitaSivels. So if y'all want to get in contact with me, just hit me up. I'm always available.
He's Reed Washington. I go by the name of Joshua Hicks. This wraps up another great episode of Opinionated the Podcast, Season 2. Love, always.
How we doing, Kansas City? And welcome to another edition of Opinionated the Podcast. Is that what it is? Cut.